The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
TBS, America's #1 independent television network, presents the following sports exclusive.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And this is Andy, and you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Nationwide, here we are. Worldwide.
That's good evening, world.
Throughout the universe. Let's not stop at just
I mean, isn't everything that ever is broadcast on Earth just sort of eventually going to filter out into space?
Sure, so let's say hi to our listeners that just picked us up yesterday from 8 years ago. Because right? Greetings. You're a little behind, but yeah, so here we are. I before we get started,
the aliens
guys,
are going to get here, and they're going to be super pissed off about the 2013 Jags uniforms. And
right, yeah, you're like, what the hell? I'm like, well, they've been through like 3 changes since then.
As we
I want to point out one thing that's proof positive to me that the world is absolutely coming to an end. Vin Scully is joining social media starting tomorrow or Wednesday. Yes, I was like, oh. For the love of God, Vin, don't do it. Do not do it. You just don't.
Well, on the other hand, if there's one man that can unite us all in these trying times, it might be, Vin Scully.
Vin Scully.
Good evening to you wherever you may be.
He's not capable of a hot take, so I don't know what he's doing on Twitter.
I'm not worried about him so much as I just think that there's going to be, no matter who you are, even Vin Scully, who I can't imagine anyone has a bad word to say about, there will still be assholes that will say a bad word about Vin Scully, and that will it'll break my heart. It'd be like the world is, there's absolutely no grace left in the world. Sam Atkins is listening to us from the 5th moon of Jupiter. Cool. All right. I would have picked one of the 4 Galilean moons because that's a little more familiar. But okay.
What's up, MJ?
MJ.
I've shared a link to our show today with some writing group friends of mine, and so that Sam Atkins, that's MJ. So what's up?
His initials don't match his name, just in case he hadn't noticed.
Greg, take that under consideration.
Do any of our screen name initials match our names? I don't think.
Yes. My name has nothing to do with the name Ice Cap, shockingly enough.
I used to joke on the boards that my real name was Infrared 41. It's what my parents named me, but as gullible as people can be, they never believed that.
Try that today, you could probably get someone to buy it. Like now, like it's not quite as how would I say, intellectual place, I guess it used to be. So you could probably get away with it.
Alex Calabrese, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Welcome. Jeremy, longtime listener. And that's it so far. Well, that's 3's better than. So anyway, yeah, so Vin Scully going on to the social media, and I just, oh my God, I don't know what to think about that. I'm really worried.
I'm assuming it'll be one of those kind of situations to where like a PR rep or really informal, like familial relationship will actually do the tweeting, and it'll be like, "Hey, granddad, what do you want to post today?" He'll be like, "I ate some carrots today. They were mighty fine." Okay. Tweet.
Yeah.
Tap.
I will just say this:
Facebook,
if you're mean,
Vin Scully, Twitter at the Vin Scully, and Instagram at the Vin Scully.
What's Vin Scully doing on Instagram? What's he gonna? What's he?
Play old Dodger clips. Play old Dodger clips. I don't know, but I'm just going to tell you all right now. Those of you that are listening, and those of you in the rest of the universe that hear this, if you're mean to Vin Scully, I'm coming looking for you. It's that simple.
Yeah,
come on. Be nice to him.
That's what I don't understand. Twitter and Instagram will launch on Wednesday, but the Facebook account won't launch until October.
Look, Facebook's a bigger operation. You need more infrastructure.
See, that's there. You go, Zach. That's the first thing people are going to give him shit about. Is that right there? And there's going to be some jackass out there that will give him a hard time. 12-foot
I just
Davis
hope,
in
I
the
just hope
house.
he's completely. I hope he doesn't respond to anyone. Like, I legitimately hope that he's just not going to respond to a single person, and he's just going to be like blissfully, ignorantly posting delightful old man things.
Right. He'll be spinning yarns on
Yeah.
regaling us with tales from the days at Ebbetsfield. Anyway,
so, I mean, we do have a lot to discuss tonight. It's been a week. It's been a hell of a week.
Yeah.
But
Last week was a hell of a month, and this year's a hell of a decade.
We're like in the last hours of August. We're almost done with it. We've almost got another month gone in this hellscape of 2020. Finally,
and believe it or not, fellas, we are closing in on finishing up the 8th year of basically a sports show.
it's just fucking crazy.
Right?
Yeah, whenever
Look, my brain's too fried for happy thoughts like that. Like, it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's really cool. Also, the world is a dumpster fire.
yeah.
So
Well, we always mark it with the start of the football season, and even the start of the football season will be
When is the
You know.
NFL starting?
2
September
weeks.
13th.
Yeah. So normal
Is that-
normal day, like normal week.
Or I guess that's the Sunday, so whatever that Thursday is.
they're going no
Oh, the
fans,
13th.
right?
Yeah,
I thought that the fans were determined by the
Each local
organizations. Yeah.
yeah. Like
So,
the
like-
the majority of them won't.
Yeah.
But
like
I
Like-
think we mentioned Kansas City will have some.
like
I mean,
the Steelers just announced they would not have fans after like hemming
Oh.
and hawing about it for
Well, now we're going to see
Weeks.
some real honest to goodness rioting. That'll be fun.
This was as of 2 days ago. The Boston Globe reported that the Cowboys, Chiefs, and Dolphins are the only teams that have promised to have fans in the
Of
stands.
course,
for
the
first game.
Cowboys would.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, whatever. The Dolphins in fucking Florida. What the fuck is wrong with you, Miami?
Well, of course, Florida. Come on.
Yeah, their special the special guests to do the opening coin toss will be the Miami Marlins, of course.
Say what you will about Florida. At least the Bucks aren't doing anything stupid like this. And you'd think they'd have a vested interest, get people in the stadium to buy those Tom Brady jerseys. But
Maybe the St. Louis Cardinals will be in town for a visit during that
oh god,
first game.
Yeah. So as I'm reading this,
how dare you, Andy? That was too far.
Sorry,
some,
Cardinals.
some teams have said for the entire regular season, like the Rams, Chargers, I think the Raiders as well.
Well, the Chargers were never going to have that problem anyway. Come on.
yeah, some teams have said for the first couple games, and with the hope that maybe they could have some fans starting in October.
Look, they're going to have to go the whole season no fans, because the only way it becomes safe to have fans in the stadium, like at least at full capacity, is when there's a vaccine. And I don't want to get into the whole vaccine discussion again, but I'm just saying until it shows up, there's no point in even really discussing, well, maybe after a few weeks. Unless one miraculously appears, it's just not happening.
So we've got Buffalo with no fans for the first two games. The Dolphins have a maximum of 13,000 or 20% capacity for their stadium.
About right for them anyway. Just,
The Patriots say no through September. The Jets.
All right,
say
I'm gonna
no.
interject here for a second. What's going to happen between now and October 1st?
that's what I'm saying. Unless there's
What's the difference?
unless a vaccine just appears, there's nothing to suggest that this is going to get better by October.
Well, again, I think just from I'm not going to read much into this whole month to month thing. I don't think it's as big of a deal. Essentially all they're doing is giving themselves the leeway to say if a vaccine is available for worldwide distribution as of October 5th.
But it won't, though.
Well, I'm just saying, hypothetically, if it's by October 5th, it's like, well, then we'll have seating reopened for the first of November.
I have a question.
It's like I deal with this at work, right? Where it's like we're gonna go the first 4 weeks without, online, and then we'll reassess. It's like, what do you think's gonna change after 4 weeks?
Well, I have a
right?
question, and I've asked this a million times. I'll ask it again. What if there is no vaccine?
There will be eventually. So
When? Like 10 years?
Nah.
5?
Probably. Well, I mean, because we discussed this with the flu vaccine. It was what, 4 or 5 years? It was like one of the fastest vaccines
Was
ever
Ebola?
cultivated.
Was
Or-
Ebola?
It was one of those. But either way, like that was years ago. The technology we have now is infinitely superior to that we had then.
Okay,
Um,
okay, and I say this because I live with a medical. I don't know if I'd call her an expert, but she knows her shit.
Sure.
What if the vaccine's only 30% effective?
Well, it depends on what the consequences are of taking it. So if it's 30% effective,
No, but like the flu vaccine, I think if I remember what she told me, is about 40% every year.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
So, assuming that it goes along the lines with a respiratory illness like the flu, what if it's only 40% effective?
I would say having a vaccine that's 40% effective is better than the situation now.
Sure.
But it doesn't eliminate it.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't eliminate. But you're never going to eliminate it.
Exactly.
No,
But that's the point. The point is nobody has unrealistic expectations as to coronavirus will just be gone forever. Like, for fuck's sake, we still have the bubonic plague, for crying out loud, and that reared its ugly head in the 1300s.
It's making a comeback, the bubonic plague. I'm just saying.
Yes, it is in China.
If you want to put a bet on something, I'd put it on that. That's probably a good one.
But my point is that nobody's being unrealistic and saying coronavirus will be gone forever. But a vaccine significantly helps. 40%, 40% effectiveness rate is better than what the situation is now. So I would say,
right, but
if it's 40%, sure, give me that vaccine. I'll take my chances.
I'm walking you into a trap, is what I'm basically doing, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
So you're okay at 40%. And what is? Let me finish. What does 40% achieve?
40% means that 40% of the population will be inoculated against coronavirus.
Kind of like what, herd immunity, maybe?
I think the difference of herd immunity is that with a vaccine, you're not the goal isn't to intentionally try to get people sick. The goal of the vaccine is.
That's exactly what you're doing with the
vaccine.
No,
that is taking a very literal.
No, it's taking a low dose of the vaccine or of the virus and giving it to you.
I'm aware of what a vaccine. I'm aware of a vaccine is, but there's a difference between saying we're going to give you this treatment that is a medically tried and tested way versus we're just going to hope you get sick and deal with it. That there is a vast difference between intent and outcome.
Well, I understand that. I'm saying that the point being is that you look at New York, where it's pretty much it's swept through New York and it's done its thing. What do you think happened there? I mean, granted, it was horrible, but my point is that waiting for a vaccine, and I'm not against the idea. I'm just saying that everybody's like the vaccine. What if it fails in trial 3 testing and we have to wait 5 more years? The point being is that we went from we're going to flatten the curve to now it's like if there's one more case, everybody flips the fuck out.
I'm just curious what the point is here. Like, are you trying to suggest we shut everything down for 5 years? Or are you trying to suggest that we all just get sick and hope for the best?
I'm suggesting that we protect the vulnerable and the people that are at the highest risk, and we let it run its course, just like we're going to do with the vaccine at 40%. The other 60 are still out there.
You're assuming that this is going to be 40% low. I mean, you're saying, okay, well, the flu
vaccine. I'm not
is
assuming anything. I'm basing that on historical statistics that I was given by a medical person.
Yeah. And for historical statistics for a virus that is not the flu, that is not the coronavirus.
It's a respiratory virus.
All right. Like,
there's nothing novel about the coronavirus part of it.
No, I'm aware of it, but it is something. It is a different thing. You're like, well, this happened with the flu. Okay, it happened with the flu.
No, I'm not using the flu as an example. I'm using like SARS. I'm using MER. I'm using very similar diseases that frankly, like with MERS and with SARS, as far as I know, and this is where I'm going to make an assumption because I don't know for sure. I don't know that there's a vaccine out there for SARS, but it's still there. My point simply being is that I'm not saying that we shouldn't worry about getting a vaccine. I'm saying if you're pinning all your hopes on it, be prepared to maybe be disappointed. That's all I'm trying to say here. It may not be by the end of the year and all that.
I think we've talked this out. We're kind of beyond the point where we were. But when it comes to teams with fans in the stands, the list is Dolphins at 13,000. The Browns are waiting for approval from the governor in Ohio.
That's not going to happen.
Tickets will be sold in, quote, pods of known fans, which means like family members can buy up to 10 tickets or something like that. The Colts, Indianapolis, no more than 25%. Jags season ticket holders 25%. Chiefs 16,000 people. Cowboys fewer than 50%, but the exact number has not been announced. The Falcons were originally going to have 10 to 20,000, but now no fans for the first few games. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are still determining at what capacity they can safely operate in 2020, but they're mulling over their options.
Well, okay, there's another question.
Everybody else says no for at least the first month or first few games.
What is considered safely operate? I don't want to take Mike's side of the argument. What's safely operate? What does that mean? Like, what do we consider an acceptable number of people getting sick at a football game to be safe?
I think, well, the idea of safely operating, I think, would have to be some sort of percentage, and that percentage would be determined by how many people you can fit in with proper distancing and all that. So I would assume probably no more than
no. But what I'm saying is
5% of people.
Okay, so all right, I understand that. But what I'm saying is, well, okay, what if 5 people get sick? Was it? I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that you can't be half pregnant on this. It's either all or nothing. You know?
Well, I mean, there's the whole this entire business with the fans and stuff. It's all a song and dance, and it could, inevitably there will be either massive changes in season, or I don't know. I don't think it's really necessary to come up with a concrete take on fans in the stands of the NFL, because of course it's going to spread. There's going to be outbreaks, and there's going to be there's going to be the coronavirus that'll get into the stadium. It's just how it's going to work. But there's no, it could take 2 weeks. It's kind of like reopening schools. It's like, well, no shit, people are going to get the coronavirus because they reopen schools. Same thing with, if you put a bunch of people in a room, even if it's outdoors or whatnot, you can do the best you can, but it's not going to matter, because that's just how the chemistry works with this stuff. So, I mean, I don't think it's like, it's an unanswerable question. It's kind of there's no way to win really with any take, and it sucks. But I mean, again, if we sit here and wait for the Cowboys to open things up, and they're like, fuck it, bring in like 500,000 people, and they just fill their stadium up with a shitload of people, we're likely going to see infinitely more cases there than a place like Pittsburgh where they don't have anybody, because just simple math.
Well, and that's the point I'm trying to get to, is like, I guess, I mean, I know from a personal experience, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to be near anybody. I don't want to be around anybody, et cetera, et cetera. But from a bigger, more, bigger picture standpoint, if we know there's going to be outbreaks, I mean, what, I guess none of us can answer this, but the question to the NFL and to the government, to everybody else, what's the end game here? Is it there to eliminate it? Is it to keep the cases down? I mean, what is it? This is what drives me nuts about this whole discussion, not just with you guys, but in general, is that money. No one, I mean, right. But nobody knows what the fuck the end game is. And it's like, until you know that, and I know, Mike, do you think the vaccine's the end game? Maybe not. We'll find out.
All I'm saying is that 40% of the population inoculated against is better than the current situation.
If it's 40%, that's the question. See, and I'm not arguing your point. I'm just saying that
it sounds like you are.
I think any.
Well, no, I think you're just taking anything I think you're just doing what you always do. If I disagree with you, you get mad at me, but that's fine. What I'm
saying is you're asking me, Greg. You're asking everyone else here. You're asking everyone, what's the end game? And I'm asking you, what's your end game? Because
I don't have one.
Okay, you're telling me that you don't want. You're telling me doom and gloom.
I just said
You're telling me doom and gloom. Don't pin your hopes on the vaccine. You're going on about herd immunity, and I don't. And I'm listening to you. And I don't know what you want.
I went on about herd immunity. I said one fucking sentence.
I'm curious what you want. I'm curious what your thing. Do you want us to all go out in the world and let it sort itself out, or do you just want us to shut everything down for 5 years until some sort of situation arises where we can safely manage it? Because I don't know. Like you said, okay, you said earlier you're trying to walk me into a trap there. Okay, so like if you're trying to walk me into a trap, you must have from an argumentative perspective, you must have a point you're trying to make. What is the point exactly? Do you want us to shut the entire world down, or do you want us to just do the opposite? Because
I think that if you want my honest, blunt opinion about it, you guys are, of the four of us, the three of you being as worried about it as you are is laughable to me, because you're the safest of anybody. I should be the one freaking out about it. First off, but that's not my end game. My end game is simple. You've got a virus that supposedly is this horrible, horrific thing, yet has like a 90-something% survival rate, 99-point-something% survival rate.
Let me ask you a question. Of the, you talk to everyone who's died from this thing. Is that going to be any comfort to their loved ones?
Mike, look, we either talk about it in the abstract or we talk about it at a personal level, but you can't have both.
Greg, to respond to something you just said, I'm not afraid of it because I will get it. I'm afraid of it because if I do get it, I live with people who are susceptible to.
I understand that. I get that. I'm not. Everybody, don't take what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you as me talking to you personally. I'm talking about in general. Okay, and I said this from the very start. If you want to go back, and the people listening can go back and look up the very first fucking show we talked about this. I said there's going to come a point where a decision is going to have to be made, where you're going to have to put it in the complete abstract and look at it from a pure number standpoint. And it's like, if you want to wait for a vaccine, I'm all for that. I'll be the first one in line to take the fucking thing. I'm not against it. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm saying that from a medical standpoint, to pin your hopes on a vaccine, that when this thing is done, the reaction to this thing is done, the damage it's done. All I'm saying is, you might want to temper those expectations, because the vaccine may only be 20% effective, or 15 or 10, or it may fail in phase 3 trials. It may not work at all. And then you got to wait, how long again after that? My question, Mike, was simply, what do we do? How long do you want to wait? Is my question, I guess.
And that's my question to you is, like, you're asking, what do we want to do? And I'm asking, what is the argument that you're trying to put forward? If you are saying
the argument I'm putting forward is simple. We have enough data now to know how the thing works pretty well. We know that if you are over the age of like 70 with comorbidities, you are at the highest risk. We know that a guy your age with no comorbidities that I'm aware of is at the lowest risk. So if you want to keep everything shut down and hopes that it will go away, that's fine. But the reality, not what I want, but the reality is very simple. You either have to let it kind of run its course, or we got to sit back and stay locked in our houses for God knows how long.
So this actually ties back to what we were discussing before the show started, to where people don't generally like things in black or white when reality is often shades of gray. In this instance, the world is very much becoming that kind of the world. When I say the world, I mean generally how the United States is handling it, is currently metamorphosizing, changing from a essentially a panic state of trying to deal with this in the most shut it down. And what's happening is very slowly in some cases is that we're in that halfway point that is very uncomfortable, to where some places are doing one thing while other places do another, and it's a collective agreeing to disagree type status, which is very obviously leading to people arguing and leading to a lot of uncomfortable discussions. And I mean, I think that that's generally going to be the status quo for at least a couple of years, even for when a vaccine is being propagated, is that there's going to be this kind of kind of bleak shade of gray where we're going back and forth, or one place may have a different policy than the next, because America's too fucking big, it's too diverse, and there's a lot of politicizing of this. Then it's not something that you can politicize, because it's an organic thing that has it's not being, as far as we know, not being governed by any sort of secret cabal bank, as far as I'm aware. Although I did see Hillary Clinton fly around my neighborhood spreading some sort of gas earlier, so I don't know if that could be related or unrelated to the coronavirus.
Probably safe to ignore it.
But this actually, and to gleefully transition away from Mike and Greg strangling one another over the. I'm just kidding.
I think that he understands that.
No.
It's not personal.
It's a spirited debate between two friends. I totally understand. However, I
know he's pissed as hell at me right now, but he'll be okay.
So we are streaming live. We are all aware that we are streaming live.
Fuck, I can't edit that out now, can I? Oh well.
No, that's okay.
All right.
But the world is watching, and if I say the world, like 7 or 8 people are sitting there watching our stream. We know that because we have it up, and we are quite aware that we are streaming. However, there are people that when they stream, they don't know that they're streaming. And that is the case of the New York Mets.
Oh, our our New York Metropolitans.
Yeah, and
Giving us a light in our times of darkness.
yes. So I would like to share the audio of this. This is, I think it's the GM of the Mets. Yes.
The guy in the mask there is the GM. He's talking to some other people in the communications department.
Right. And essentially, so on the Mets website, they were going to do some sort of press conference, and a fan just happened to go there to check like the time of first pitch, and he saw that they were streaming, but they didn't realize they were live. And so this dialogue occurred.
They're mulling that over. Baseball's trying to come up with a solution, saying, "No, it'd be super powerful. Three of us here can't leave this room." They're saying,
"Can't leave this room."
It'd be really great if you just have them all take the field. Then they leave the field, and then they come back and play at 8:10. And I was like, "What? Who's it?" Rob.
Manfred.
Jeff's scheduling's gonna be a nightmare. There's so much at stake. And I said, "Jeff, that's not happening.
They're not dealing with reality.
They're not playing, but that's Rob's instinct. And Rob, not exactly what you and I were talking about. At leadership level, he doesn't get it. He just doesn't get it. And that's so. Anyway, so we're waiting. Jeff wants to hear as soon as we hear from the Marlins.
So essentially, what he's proposing there is that this is. And we can come back to this later. This is in response to the players and the Kenosha activity and the protesting and stuff that the Mets were looking to join the movement that was occurring and essentially boycott the game and make some sort of a statement. And what Manfred told this GM is that, how about we just have them, we televise them going out and doing this walk-off big dramatic thing. And then, an hour later, after everyone stops paying attention, we'll just play the game.
No shit, really?
What actually happened, because they had to make a couple apologies after that. Because one, the GM there misunderstood the conversation that was going on.
I find this to be bullshit.
Right. He says that the idea actually came from Jeff Wilpon, the current owner of the Mets, the current outgoing owner of the Mets. He's trying to sell the team. And so they said, oh, well, this is actually just an idea that Jeff Wilpon had that was then somehow filtered through Manfred, and Rob Manfred put out his own statement saying, like, oh, I never would I try to do something like that. And we fully back the players, and et cetera, et cetera. And then that night, as it played out, instead of just boycotting the game altogether, like a lot of the MLB teams did, the Mets and the Marlins did a performative sort of thing where they all went out onto the field, the starting lineups of each team, then didn't throw a pitch, didn't do anything, stood out there for how it was like a certain amount of time.
It was I can't remember how many minutes. It was a symbolic amount of time.
Yeah, regarding I think it might have been the George Floyd number. I don't remember. Or no. It was 7 for the shots. I don't know. Doesn't matter. They went on the field, did a salute, had a moment of silence, then all left the field and left a Black Lives Matter T-shirt over home plate for their whole performance of it. And then the idea that was floated out there was that they would then come back and still play the game an hour after that, which was quickly shot down and everybody realized would have been dumb. But the Mets, everybody.
Yeah, I just thought it was such a candy ass move to essentially say oh shit, this got out. We need a fall guy who's going to take the blame for this.
Yeah, it was 42 seconds for Jackie Robinson.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it? The GM's idea to do this?
No, it was Rob Manfred's idea to do this.
To have them come out and then do the thing and then come back an hour later and play.
Yeah.
That was
Wow.
It was Manfred's idea, and then he tried to pass it off onto the Mets owner.
Wow.
Which makes no sense because the GM is the one talking about it. And so if the
GM talking on a live mic saying, hey, this doesn't leave this room.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
what we're talking about right now doesn't leave the three of us.
And so
everybody on camera.
But if you're the Mets GM, right? And this idea originated with the Mets owner, I find it very dubious that it would start with the Mets owner, go to Manfred, and then go to the GM of the Mets to misinterpret it to Manfred. That makes no sense. If it was the Mets owner, he would have just told the Mets GM directly. It sounds to me that the whole, this wasn't Manfred's idea is just a bunch of bullshit, and that it was Manfred's idea, and they're figuring, the owner of the Mets is an outgoing owner anyway. that's pin it on him.
Well, I would agree with that, except for one thing, Mike. These are the Mets we're talking about, so it could have gone the other way. You just don't know.
It's just to be perfectly honest, this is the kind of shit that Rob Manfred would do. So I don't know.
You can add it to the laundry list of just dumb things he has said and done, and unfortunately, I mean, not dumb in necessarily a Bettman way. He's not quite reached the Bettman like X-Pac heat level of hatred and contempt, but it's just more of like you're a robot lizard.
Bettman's more of a buffoonish oaf.
He's like a bridge troll.
Whereas,
what Bettman does is a little bit more calculated than that, though. Like his is connivingly stupid.
He's kind of like Lord Zed a little, you know. He just like take this, and then he gets foiled, and if people boo him, and he's like rats, but he's always there again for the next time to try and be stupid again.
Whereas, I don't know, Manfred is like a House of Cards villain, maybe? I don't know.
No, I think Manfred's just stupid. The conversation I was having with somebody on Twitter the other day, just when this came out, I guess, is that Rob Manfred is the greatest thing to ever happen to Gary Bettman, to be perfectly honest. Because everybody just gets mad at Rob Manfred. And even now, yes, Gary Bettman has his foils, but there's still a lot of people who are like, yeah, he sucks, but he's also kind of okay at his job.
I mean, he's never called the Stanley Cup just a piece of metal, you know. Yeah. I mean, for all that.
He hasn't done that.
He did try to rename all the trophies, though.
He did, yes.
Because he was like, nobody knows who Art Ross is. It's like, hockey fans know, Gary. Hockey fans
I'll just say with Rob Manfred, never attribute to, what's it? Michael know who said this. Never attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by stupidity. That's, wow. That's just amazing.
I mean, I think it was Andy who said it best, honestly, that Rob Manfred is just the closest you can get out of like the big four executives who are just empty suits. Like more than anyone else, Rob Manfred is just like the personification of boring baseball in a suit.
He's a pet lizard. If you ever go to somebody's house and they're like, dude, check out my pet lizard. And it's like, whoa, you have a lizard? It's like, yeah, check this shit out. And they like pull back the curtain and it's like a lizard on like a stick. And it's like, what does it do? It just lays there, man. It just sits under that light. And I feed it bugs sometimes. It's like, does it like hiss or anything? It's no, it literally does not move. It just sits. It just stays there. Does it like lick or do anything weird? Does it like climb? No, it just kind of exists, and I spend a lot of money on its food, and it literally gives nothing in return. It just kind of exists.
I've said this before about Robert Goodell, but I suppose it's even more, appropriate to ask about Rob Manfred. What is his day-to-day like? Rob Manfred presumably has an outrageous salary to be commissioner of Major League Baseball. What does he do on a day-to-day basis when he goes into the office?
According to TMZ, Manfred earns $11 million a year.
So what does he do for $11 million a year? What does he do going into the office?
Nothing that the four of us couldn't do a hell of a lot better.
Half the money. Does he just go in to yell at people on Twitter who want a pitch clock, or like I don't get what Rob Manfred does as commissioner.
I have a better question. When was the last time baseball had a good commissioner? Does anybody even remember? Was it Bart Giamatti?
Selig, for all of his foibles,
wasn't
that bad. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he didn't.
I mean, like the only thing I can even think of that people are like, oh, Bud Selig, he allowed this to happen, was the tie at the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Well, let's not forget. Funny, let's not forget, fellas. He also, and again, he's not solely responsible for this, but he was right there with everybody else, turning a complete blind eye to the whole steroids era. So there's that.
He was,
yeah.
But then again, literally everyone else was
right, including fans. So let's not all get on our high horses here.
I remember the McGuire Sosa home run race, and like everyone knew, but we were all just sort of like, "Yay, dingers!"
Yeah, you know what's funny? It was like no one cared. It seemed like until Barry Bonds did it, and it was like I don't know if he's just that unlikable that like, wait a minute,
Look, Barry,
this asshole can't do this too.
I think it was Barry Bonds. I think it's because like Barry Bonds was so like outrageously obvious about it, where like he went up a hat size,
Yeah.
like, and it's like Sosa and McGuire got caught, and then it was like, okay, they got caught, and then they admitted it, and it's like, fuck you guys. But like Barry Bonds was like, no, I didn't do it, and it's like, Barry, here's literally a before and after picture. Like, this physically cannot happen to you without steroids, and he denied it continuously, and then it was and then he broke the home run record, which I think is what really pissed people off. Like Sosa and McGuire went for the single season record, which I guess is a big deal, but like when you know, you had Hank Aaron, who's beloved in baseball. Like, everyone loves Hank Aaron. And Barry Bonds, and you have Barry Bonds, this fucking guy who is like blatantly cheating and lying about it. I think that is what got people. In my opinion, it was just, which I guess is a long form way of me agreeing with you, Greg, and just saying like Barry Bonds is just like that unlikable of a person.
Well, and I think the other argument too, in Bonds' defense, is everybody said you were a Hall of Famer without doing all this. You didn't need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think that bothered people even more.
I mean, maybe he doesn't get. I mean, like maybe if he never does steroids, he doesn't get the all-time home run record. But he has that now, and everyone hates him anyway. So what good did it get him?
Steroids, man. In the coming, even now, it still feels like maybe it's just like me and getting older and time feeling like it's running together. Like it doesn't feel like it was all that long ago, even though it was like 20 some odd years. What was it, like 2003, 2004 when they finally said enough's enough and implemented all the testing and all that? That sounds, because essentially they were waiting for the.
What was that report? That big government report?
I can't think of the name of it anymore. It was huge news when it was happening.
Mitchell report.
Mitchell report. That's it. Yeah,
2007 wasn't that it was published?
Really?
Yeah.
So it really wasn't that long ago then.
Yeah,
I mean, still a while ago, but I was thinking it was like back at the turn of the century type stuff was when all that was going on. Huh.
13 years, yeah.
Well, of course, time is it's completely fucked now.
Anyway,
and
it was 2001 when Bonds broke the record, and the Mitchell report came out 6 years later.
Wow. Doesn't it seem like Bonds broke the record? The Mitchell report came out the next day.
Well, I think it feels like that because there was a lot of there was a build up to the report, right? Because there was 6 years, but over those 6 years, it was continuously being talked about. So when it finally did happen, you look back, and again, it's over a decade ago.
2001 was the single season record.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. When did he break the home run?
He broke the actual home run record in 2014.
Oh, okay.
In 14?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he hung out with the Giants for those last several years. Really,
God, I would have thought that was like only 3 or 4 years after he did the single season record.
No, because the single season record was 01, then he lost to the Angels in 02.
Right.
And that was still relatively early in his time with the Giants, or not relatively early, I guess, but still in his prime years with the Giants. So he still played on after that.
He played until 2014. No kidding. Wow, it doesn't seem like it.
Do you guys remember he did some sort of a special where I think it was an ESPN show where they essentially followed him around to sort of humanize him. It was a documentary. Mm-hmm. And it was just more awkward than anything because Barry Bonds is not terribly likable.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I wouldn't go so far as to say he's like a rotten, awful person, but he's just genuinely unpleasant. And
I read the number wrong because that was based on when this video was posted. He did it in the 2007 season.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe, I don't know. I'm getting to the levels of being an old person where it all just runs together.
Oh, wait till you get to be my age. You were like 2002 was like last week, and well, it's 20 years goes by before you even know what happened.
It's like reading about kids who get drafted and stuff, like NFL rookies. Like, yeah, born in 2003. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, no,
right?
But.
Anyway, do you have another screen share here, Andy? You want to? What's this about?
No, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. So we can totally go with this one. I didn't mean to share it, but essentially, this is it was Dan Snyder. Another thing involving filming, and this is mostly just the text of it. But essentially, Dan Snyder. And I was kind of reading through this to try and get the whole story, but feel free to chime in if you know more about it. But essentially, some Redskins cheerleaders were filming some sort of promotional video. This was, I don't know how many years ago, 2008, and a swimsuit calendar. They're taking a video chronicling the making of the cheerleader thing. And anyway, there were parts where they were posing suggestively and all this stuff. And but there's, anytime you do this sort of modeling stuff, there's always the opportunities to where the clothing falls off, a boob falls out, or whatever. But essentially, there was a collection of outtakes that were considered, quote, the good parts, where all the bits were hanging out. And essentially, they were. And this is from the article here from the Washington Post. The outtakes were in an interview where this guy, I don't know who this is, Larry Michael, he's the lead broadcaster and senior vice president at the time, told staffers to make the video for Dan Snyder. So essentially, in 2008, Dan Snyder felt it was vital that he get a video of his employees, the cheerleaders, nudie bits falling out during the making of a promotional video / calendar. And so, again, it's just another thing to throw on the pile for our friend Dan Snyder, who apparently just is a fucking tick that the NFL can just never root out.
Doesn't the NFL have, like baseball has, a for the good of the game clause that basically if they have to use it, it's the hammer they can drop on we lost Andy. Talking about, it's like, okay, this guy's just bad for the game, let's get rid of him.
I don't know if baseball has that.
Or who am I thinking of?
Basketball just flat out kicked Sterling out because he was a racist, but like, I don't think there is any precedent set. I think that was just Adam Silver going, fuck this guy. The thing that we need to remember about these leagues is that they are not monolithic entities. They're collections of owners.
Yeah.
Sorry. And that if enough NFL owners feel like they don't want to remove Dan Snyder, then Dan Snyder is not going to be removed.
No, I get it, but
how could you fall on his side of anything at this point? Then, really?
Because here's the thing: I don't know, because Dan Snyder seems like a reprehensible human being, so I couldn't give you an answer. If I had to guess, yeah, Dan Snyder got to Andy. If I had to guess, I would say that it's a combination of like the super rich have like a twisted view of the world that, quite frankly, you and I cannot comprehend because we don't live in that sort of bubble, right? Where
the outside world can just be so unfair to them, Mike.
Oh yeah, no, but I mean that's basically what I'm getting at is that these guys are like, it's like, I guarantee you Dan Snyder's not the only current NFL owner with some lewd, weird, creepy shit in his closet.
No one's been treated as unfairly as Dan Snyder has by the media.
Okay.
Oh, God. And so I guarantee you that you've probably got some other owners who are, hesitant to force him out because you know what? They probably got some shit like this too.
How many other owners are there? 31?
32 if you count the collective body of Packers.
Oh wait, yeah, I was about to say all the owners, but then that would be throwing myself into the mix there, and I can't do that.
Well, Greg, what have you been up to, Gregory?
Yeah, we don't. Fortunately, I don't think the Packers have cheerleaders, or do they? I don't know.
Let me give you this: the NFL ownership is very much. Are you guys aware of the Habsburg jaw?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those unfamiliar, the Habsburg jaw is essentially a trait, a physical trait of inbreeding, of royal inbreeding.
I was going to say it sounds like a team up by where Chaos Blast lives, the Habsburg jaw.
That would be a moose jaw.
I mean, I could see that, but essentially the ownership of the NFL, if you took like a picture of each individual that owned the NFL, it would look like a bunch of the paintings of the Habsburg jaw, like incest families, to where it's just like these like weird kind of wretched people who were just all very strange, and but essentially they are all in it with each other in this weird like incestuous hive of like making one another billions of dollars, and they never want to give it up.
I mean, you saw this to a lesser degree. Now to be clear, Dean Spanos is not, as far as we know, a sex pervert, right? Who has like nudie films of his cheerleaders on call.
You think?
I mean, I don't want to disparage the guy until proof comes out, but he's, but you know, he is a boob, and I think, but like, I mean, you saw this right with the with the LA negotiations, where like the vast majority of owners, by a wide margin, were like, yeah, Stan Kroenke's plan is the best plan. And so we're going to vote for it because it's the best plan. It's going to make us the most money. But then also it's like, but poor Dean. We like Dean, even though he's an idiot and runs his team poorly. We like Dean, so we're going to give him an in to LA too because we like him and we feel bad for him. And I think that same thing might actually have a bleed over, you know, to Dan Snyder to a way where, again, you know, what Dan Snyder did is far more egregious than Dean Spanos just sucking at owning the Chargers. But with Dan Snyder, I guarantee you, like, it's like what Hindi said. There's a lot of that old boys club. There's a lot of that, you know, hyper rich, weird people who like have their own bubble. Like Zach said, they're all like, oh, the outside world doesn't understand what we have to do. And it's this just, Gandhi said it best. It's a hive, and I think that you're gonna have NFL owners who are hesitant to come down on Dan Snyder because they've got stuff as well. Oh, God.
I'm just saying.
I'm gonna say that Charles Habsburg there has better hair, so. Plus
Honestly,
for him.
God.
But who has better connections at PF Chang's?
That's true.
Hey, speaking of that, I for the first time in my life on Friday night, I had PF Chang's.
And how'd you like it?
It's all right.
Yeah, that's about right for PF Chang's.
Well, it was it was fast food Chinese food. It was okay. I had the honey shrimp. It wasn't bad.
And now, so now that you've had PF Chang's, Greg, understand that Mark Davis like practically lives at that place.
Well,
and
the first
like,
Greg,
the first thing I did, Mike,
up in a minivan to get.
No, I was just going to say the first thing I did is I went out and put an 8-track player in my Forward Edge and a TV set, shag carpeting, so I'm good to go.
Who? Oh God, yeah.
Who the fuck cuts their hair like that? I mean, come on, right? It's like the Granny Clampett, Jethro Bodine, whatever the fuck it is, bowl cut there. It's like, give me a break. I'm sorry, that's an old reference that we've had arguments about before, but anyway, that's an old Bass reference that goes way back like 5 or 6 years.
This may be cruel what I'm about to do, but let me see if I can.
Like this wasn't.
Well,
comparing Mark Davis to like an inbred European monarch.
I mean, what did he do? Did he walk into the barbershop again?
Oh no.
Did he walk into the barbershop and go, give me the mo? I mean, what the fuck did he, I don't even get what this is. Come on.
It was a great piece. I'm going to try and find it.
Brings it on bowl.
Yeah. So it's a Business Insider article. It's actually amazing.
Oh yeah, that one's great.
Because it gives you a day in the life of Mark Davis.
I've read this.
Yeah.
I have. I think we, when did it come out?
2 years ago.
Is this where we got the information about the van and the whole?
Yeah, how he's got this weird he's got this weird old van with like a VCR in it, and he eats all of his meals at PF Chang's to the point where like people call him and he's like, I'm at the office, and then he shares like a wink with the PF Chang's bartender or something.
You know, if PF Chang's were the best Chinese food I'd ever eaten in my life, I still wouldn't eat there. And it's not. I would not eat there every day. I mean, come on, who wants to do that? But
my favorite part of that article, though,
my
favorite part about that article is when he was talking to the GM of the Raiders at PF Chang's, and he gave him he tore 2 corners off of a napkin and handed it to him. And he's like, I need you to get me these. And the GM's like, what are you talking about? And Mark Davis is like, 2 cornerbacks.
Oh God. Andy, put that back up for a second.
Oh, okay,
he's that kind of guy. Yeah.
Oh my.
It's also hilarious that this buffoon is like Al Davis's kid, because like you'd expect, like, we've just been trashing on NFL owners, but like Al Davis was legitimately something else, and you would have thought he would have raised like a
killer.
A killer, yeah. Like, but no, like he raised Mark Davis, which is
like Al Davis's son should have been like Michael Corleone, like
but now
Vito, but no, we got fucking Fredo instead. I don't know how that happened.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you know, that's dear old dad.
But look at that guy. That guy fucked you up in his earlier years.
Yeah, he was. Doesn't matter what he looked like; it was his attitude. But I just love the comment about the haircut. It's a middle finger to convention. That might be the understatement of all time.
I'd say it's a middle finger to decency and
for just decency.
Yeah, like fashion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess you could say like he did look a little bit more, you know, like a normal dude back in the, I don't know. He
now he's just remembered as a flame in the stadium. So that's good.
And you know what? I'm sure Al would have been all for Vegas. That seems like something he'd have done.
Yeah, because you can just change it from just win baby to Vegas baby or whatever.
Anyway.
Dan Snyder will probably, I don't expect he's going to be forced out, because I think that the NFL collective of ownership is going to, I don't know if they can cover for him, because it's a pretty heinous thing to, you know, basically be like, oh yeah, he's got nudie films of his employees, but I guarantee you they're gonna try to sweep it under the rug. Like,
yeah, well, they're doing that investigation still right now, ongoing. There's one started by the organization itself, and then there's an NFL one that's also ongoing. I thought that there was an independent one going on as well, but one way or another, however long this takes, like there's something will happen.
Look at Chaos Blast getting the nice bass reference in there. That's
stabbing
nice.
knives.
Right,
yeah,
that's good, huh? You got to really know the show to know what that means. All right.
One way or another, the football team LLC will be affected when they finally get down to it, because there's too many allegations at this point for this to like continue. Because beyond the actual name stuff, which they've handled with, you know, the grace of an injured gazelle.
Say the grace of an ox falling down the flight of stairs, but yours is good too.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you had this come out the same week that was going on, and now it's just building and building and building, and we're in a different culture than we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, where these things might have first come on people's radar, and you can't get away with this kind of crap anymore. Like, as much as we say, oh, well, they'll get out, I don't think they will this time. Something will have to happen when this is all said and done. Yeah,
I agree. I just don't know how you can, if the sexual, what's the word I'm looking for? It's, you know, the issues with the women and all that. If it's as deep as they think it is, I don't know how you walk away from that. I just don't know how you do it.
And what's weird is that I feel like Roger Goodell has made up a lot of ground in a way. I mean, by the standards of Goodell, in the last probably
a pretty low bar already, right?
Yes.
So you mean apologizing to Colin Kaepernick 4 years later, like that sort of timetable?
Well, you know, honestly, for the
type of guy Roger Goodell is, he gets a thumbs up for trying.
I think that Roger Goodell, I think history will try to have will have some sort of pity on him, because he seems like I mean, earnestly, like I feel like he's the kind of person who is sort of, at least he presents himself in a way that makes him feel kind of like a doddering fool.
He's just a doddering fool, but he really likes football and ain't that swell.
And I mean, he did a recent series of interviews where it was called Uncomfortable Discussions with a Black Man, and it was him and
Emmanuel Acho.
Emmanuel Acho. Yeah, and they're not bad. Yeah. They're not bad little interviews.
Emmanuel Acho is really great. He's been great.
Sounds like a Saturday Night Live sketch.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like any conversation with Roger Goodell is going to be uncomfortable.
Right?
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's candid, and it's not, it's not as embarrassing or cringeworthy as you think it would be. And I feel like he's earnestly trying to repair what he feels are some really major gaping PR holes that the NFL created for itself years ago when they decided to take the side of the flag in the whole kneeling debate thing. And I give Goodell credit for at least, because a lot of more arrogant GMs wouldn't do that. They wouldn't essentially, they would not
admit that they fucked up.
Correct. They wouldn't backtrack on any of this. And Goodell, I think, is doing the right thing by, and ever since he's done this, there's been a lot of teams that have, like the Ravens just put out a video today. It's like a 3 or 4 minute video of their roster signing letters to Mitch McConnell for this police reform thing. Like that was unheard of 6 months ago. Like that would never have happened 6 months ago. So I feel like that's, by the metric of Goodell, the Goodell metric, that's pretty good for him to, improve his look and improve like at least the image. There's lots of stuff we can discuss football wise about Roger Goodell in the NFL under his watch. For sure.
Lost Zach.
God.
He's
Dan
there
Snyder.
somewhere.
Dan Snyder's taking us all out.
Dan Snyder's
that's another warning shot. Mike, you and I are next.
There's like
Dan Snyder. I'm next. He's saving Greg for last, so he can kill the show with his final blow.
Drones are like slowly using our IP addresses to find our location and take us out.
The drones that have the stupid W like scribbled over crossed out Indian head logo.
Who's gonna add the Dan Snyder Redskin drone to their GTOV list?
Oh yeah, fuck it, doing it now.
Right.
Yeah,
write that shit down. Write that shit down.
It's going after Gwyneth Paltrow vagina candles, by the way.
Oh God. How did she not make last year's tournament? Because those have been around since before we did the tournament. But yeah. What was I gonna say?
I don't know.
Oh, the thing with the Ravens, and it's with it, going back to Kaepernick, and we talked about this back when it happened. I understand that it bothers people. I get it. I do. I completely understand that. And I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. If it were me, I would not have done it. But how can you wrap yourself in, the flag and patriotism and all that and condemn the guy for doing what's essentially his right to do? And that goes from
freedom speech. It's in the Constitution.
And in order for you to fully believe in it, you have to be able to stand up for the guy that drives you fucking crazy. It's as simple as that.
Well, you got to look at it this way. Look at it from the comparison, and this is totally not, it's a very different context. But if you look at it from like a message board where you're a moderator, and some guy comes out and says like I don't know, Washington Redskins, you're a bunch of snowflake liberals, and that's the greatest logo ever made, and I want to cheer for Team Indian slur, and then they get banned. But that isn't a defamation of their freedom of speech or a censorship because it's a message board. It's
right, but my argument would be that I get the point you're making, but with Colin Kaepernick, it's like maybe you go, you know what? Maybe there's a discussion we need to have here. We talked about this before the show started tonight. It's like no one wants to. I don't mean like us, but I mean like no one wants to have the discussion anymore. It's like they just want to throw things at the other person because they're doing something they disagree with.
Yeah,
and I don't understand that. And for Goodell to backtrack, I mean, I guess it's good in a way, but what took you so long to figure this out? Is my question. We knew back then it was just a simple gesture. It wasn't.
I think I know exactly what happened. And this kind of goes back to the whole cabal of the NFL ownership kind of thing. It's that is that the NFL, and I'm about to use a term that might be political, but I don't necessarily mean it in a political way, more of a societal or a worldview way. the NFL ownership, by virtue of who they are, is a very conservative group.
Oh, sure.
And
Yeah, I agree.
you know, I guarantee you that when Kaepernick did the flag thing, and when he started kneeling, people in NFL ownership, you know, they were like, you know what? Because they have this very ingrained conservative view of the world, they were probably like, this is just something that's going to blow over, and we can bury this. It'll be, you know, maybe we'll have to put up with it for a year or two, and then it'll blow over, and we'll all get back to making billions. And then it didn't. Funnily enough, Donald Trump helped make sure that it didn't, because it was starting to die down until Donald Trump opened his mouth about it, and suddenly it stirred the whole thing back up again.
Greg, you got to let Zach back into the show.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
And
do we have to? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Zach.
Hello.
What'd you do? Did your grandmother's internet quit on you again?
No, my computer decided I was out of application memory.
Oh,
wow.
Okay.
Sounds like your headset is out of application memory.
Right, that too.
Yeah, also possible.
But yeah.
Let me fix your mic, Zach. I'm going to mute you for a second. Go ahead, Mike.
So I think that what was happening is, you know, the NFL thought, oh, this is a thing, it'll blow over, because when you have that really ingrained conservative worldview, that's how you perceive anything that might be a challenge. You go, we can fight this, or we can wait for it to die out, and we won't address it. And then when the NFL, when it didn't happen, when it got really bad, with Trump stirring it back up again, the NFL found itself in a position where it could no longer do that, and so eventually they came around, and that's sort of the thing where I guess I'm forgiving, and I guess I'm kind of falling in line with Andy's view on this thing, because it's like, look, people have people have bad takes. People, stand for things maybe they shouldn't stand for. But, at the same time, people change their minds. And,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Like, if I took that position, or it's like everyone who ever disagreed with me at any time, it's like fuck you, like you're dead to me. Like, no, that's dumb. That's dumb, and it's not really how anyone should live. So if Roger Goodell, it's like I don't agree with it, but I understand the worldview of this group of guys, this group of owners who maybe wanted to brush it all under the rug when it first came up, and now that it's proven that it's not just going to be a flash in the pan, they are working to at least address it in some way. And I think, that's to be commended. Like,
and that will ultimately benefit the owners when it comes to the next CBA, because I mean, they will essentially say like, hey, we met you part way with this. That means something. Like, we listened to you. It wasn't necessarily like the NBA just recently, where you literally had essentially what was a strike that ceased play and halted play and caused a ripple effect with the NFL. If anything, for the NFL, it stopped a few practices. Really, it's all it did for them. But
that's all they could do in the moment, really.
So I guess I to translate this into a conversation I wanted to have with you guys while it's topical, and we do need to talk about it. The whole strike, because this was honestly, it was a historic moment. It was a big moment in professional sports, and much less in American sports history. You have the Milwaukee Bucks essentially doing a strike. They did not take the floor for their game 5. They were already up 3-1 in that series anyway.
Yes.
They did not take the floor against the Magic. I believe that's correct. Magic, right?
Yeah, the Magic were out there warming up, and the Bucks, they didn't plan this ahead of time. When they all got to the locker room, I think an hour before game time is when they first started discussing doing this.
Mm-hmm. And essentially, they didn't take the floor, and the Magic would not accept a forfeit, even though that was what the Bucks were intending. And from there, the league essentially said all the games are suspended, and essentially everything was stuck in its tracks. They actually had a meeting that evening. And then again, the next morning, that was pretty hot, pretty tense, and resulted Yeah, there was. So I don't have all the details in front of me at the moment, but feel free to chime in, Zach or Mike, Greg, if you guys recall any of the tidbits. But essentially, a big part of what the players were wanting to do was, do we resume play? Do we resume play? And essentially, they were pointing to LeBron James and saying, LeBron, what are we going to do? Because the league will follow you. And LeBron James was very much about trying to get the ownership to advocate against police brutality, trying to get players to completely rally around to the point of the solidarity of stopping play. And that was going to happen. So LeBron left. And when LeBron walked out of the meeting, all the Lakers, but Anthony Davis, I think, stayed.
Yeah.
And it was
the things that got heated. The meeting the first night on what was that, Wednesday?
It sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, so the meeting that first night on Wednesday is when it got heated. And the initial part of what got the players heated was, it wasn't that they were mad at the Bucks for doing this. They were mad that they weren't consulted, because a lot of these guys are feeling the same way that the Bucks players were. The Bucks players were just feeling it maybe a little bit more because this happened in their backyard. They have a player on their team that has experienced some racial profiling recently, and some police brutality. For parking wrong outside of a convenience store. And so the Bucks they did this on their own accord. It was a strike in the truest of ways. And then, the rest of the teams kind of felt like they wanted to do it, but then they were almost being forced into it instead of organizing together and being that united front that you're talking about. And so initially the way it was reported was that night, when they took the vote at the end of the meeting of who would want to keep playing and who would be in favor of going, like what were they leaning? The Lakers and the Clippers were the only two teams that voted that they would leave.
Right.
And then they all had a night to think about it. Maybe clear heads prevail. They come in the morning and they have another meeting with the players and the ownership, and then they have a probably a more productive discussion where they do decide that they are going to stick around. If they do, they need something more tangible from the owners. Because yes, they have Black Lives Matter on the floor every night. Yes, they have the jersey messages. Yes, they've had all these shows of solidarity and all that. But they needed some actual action to be put in place. Because the other thing I want to credit the Bucks on, at least when they started this, when they were in the locker room, they weren't just like, "Hey, we're going to boycott tonight. Okay, let's boycott and make a big stink about it." Once they decided they were going to boycott, they got on the phone with the attorney general and governor of Wisconsin to actually talk to them and try to get some sort of dialogue started, which was
right. They actually went through Bucks ownership to arrange that call.
Yes,
they basically said, "You get your asses on the phone because you have the sway."
Yeah, Bucks ownership. The lead owner, one of the lead owners of the Bucks, was the lead money raiser for the Democratic National Convention, and he was the guy because the DNC was supposed to happen in Milwaukee, and that was the reason why was they were able to galvanize, a movement to get them there, and so they had connections within government because they're very active in that way. So that's another reason why it was important that it was the Bucks that did it, because one, it's in their backyard. Two, they actually have an owner that has some sort of ability to break through into that political sphere and maybe get somebody at least on the phone.
Yeah, because they're I guess their state government or state senate hadn't assembled since February, and essentially was determined not to work. And they, to their credit, I don't know what good it did, if it did any good, but I think they did have a dialogue at least with some of those local politicians, and to what degree the ripple effect was of that is still kind of being determined. Because we talked about the Mets situation, which was kind of a PR disaster for Manfred. There was several teams. I think they canceled several games. I think the Cubs, there was an opportunity with the Cubs.
Yeah, the Cubs, the Mariners and Padres went. The Brewers, obviously.
The WNBA completely shut down. They've been kind of ahead of this, to their credit.
Yeah, they all took the WNBA all took the floor. I think it was just the Mystics. And they were wearing T-shirts with 7 bullet holes in the back of them.
Yeah, that was pretty intense.
Which was pretty wild, yeah. And but the thing that came out with the NBA was they did try to, before they agreed to start playing again, which they did on Saturday, the NBA had to put forth an actual plan. And one of those things, I don't know. I gotta
step in for a second. I'm lost here. What's the NBA's? What's their plan?
Well,
Like-
that's what I'm saying is one of the, I don't have the specifics in front of me, but the one that I do remember is the thing that they had to that the players pushed for to get the owners to agree to, in arenas where they could, where like the team is in control of the arena, or they can make some sort of agreement with the arena ownership to try to make every NBA arena a polling center for the election.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And so they've done that in where the cities where the team owns the building. They've done that, and then the one that I know, at least locally, like the Lakers and Clippers don't own Staples Center; it's owned by AEG, who owns the Kings. But they were able to work out a thing with them to open up Staples Center as being a polling center for Election Day. So they're trying to do that with all the NBA arenas.
That's something that seems to me like they should have, like, all this aside, somebody should have thought of years ago.
So in order to, so the Kings and the Lakers, I read about this agreement, in order to get them to agree to let them make that a polling place, the Lakers had to concede that they should not have won the 2002 playoff series against the Kings. And the Lakers,
Fair enough.
No, I'm just kidding.
We're talking the Los Angeles Kings, not Sacramento.
Oh.
Hey, I'll have you know that certain local news stations can't tell the two apart, Zach.
This is
true. So, what do you, my question, what do you guys think about this as far as like, is it bad for business? Because when we were way back at the NFL, Mike was talking about the Colin Kaepernick thing. I want to throw it in that like the owners did that because it was bad for business for them not to. I don't think there was, it was partially because they're a conservative group and all that, but I also believe that they like stuck their finger up and saw which way the wind was blowing and said, we're going to do this with Colin Kaepernick. But this is much bigger than that. This is way bigger than just one player. So from a business standpoint, do you guys think this is going to hurt in the long run?
No.
Well, no, because what money are they losing right now? Like they're not playing in the buildings as it is.
But no, but I'm not talking about. I mean, like from a brand standpoint. Do you think?
I think the NBA has been on this track for a while, though. The NBA has been of the major leagues, like the most progressive of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Spearheaded by the players,
ever since
especially in today's climate.
Yeah. Ever since the Sterling move, the NBA has kind of led the way.
Also, I mean, and then of course there's the NFL. No, sorry, then there's the NHL's approach, which was hilarious.
Right. Well, that's kind of a thing to consider here too. Where like the NBA has been on the forefront of this. You know, they've been, pretty proactive in doing stuff like this. Where the NHL has always, as in Matt Dumba, his own words, in Matt Dumba, black NHL player was one of the spearheaders of the Hockey Diversity Alliance that was formed this summer. He even said on a Vancouver radio station, like, the NHL is always last when it comes to these things. And sure enough, like, yes, Major League Baseball games were being played, but there were still games that got canceled, and there were plenty of players that sat out. The only league that went through with its entire slate that evening was the National Hockey League, which there's some excuses for it, and then there's some others that aren't. So, like, the news broke right in the middle of the Islanders-Flyers game, the first game of that day. They're obviously in the middle of that game. They're not going to do anything about it. The players don't know what's going to happen. So, they play that through. So then the NHL scrambles and says, we're going to have a moment of reflection before the second two games of the day. So they have that moment of reflection.
Ah, yes.
Oh, my God. So the moment of reflection for the Bruins-Tampa game, the PA announcer just goes, they put up the big end racism placard.
They had that one on standby. Yeah.
Then they put, we recognize that this is a time for reflection. The NHL sends its well wishes to Jacob Blake and his family. And we now pause for a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3.
Thank
4.
you.
Now the national anthem. Like it was 5 seconds. Of silence. The national anthem. We're just going to roll on.
The NHL's response to this is nothing short of hilarious.
Yeah, the initial response, they did get better, but then the other thing that happened that day was, again, they were supposed to have a moment of reflection before both games. The second game comes, And apparently those players, their excuse afterwards were, oh, well, this was all happening while we were taking our pregame naps, and we didn't know.
Our pregame naps.
And when we got to the building, like, nobody wanted to talk about it, so we just went and played the game. And then they didn't have the moment of reflection before that game. So then they played the game, and nothing happened.
Mike, I'm going to defend the pregame nap because for real, the pregame nap is a very, very common thing in professional sports, because essentially their work day doesn't begin until like an hour before they actually play the game. Mm-hmm. So essentially, these guys, they work a late second shift. So it's essentially just a nap before they go to work. It's a very common thing. Been going back for as long as games have been in prime time in the Big Four.
Right.
So
but
take that.
To say that, like, to be like, oh, I was unaware.
All right, fine. Pregame nap. Okay.
I'm with you, Mike. It sounds kind of silly to me, too.
But to be there and kind of say, like, oh, all those racial justice protests? Sorry, we just didn't have the time. I was napping. Like, come on. Especially when they were using the Stars, who a couple of their players, Tyler Seguin, Jamie Dickinson, knelt with the Golden Knights earlier this playoffs, one of the only teams to do so, and then they didn't do anything. But to their small credit, the next day, the Hockey Diversity Alliance, made up of the Black and minority players, called out the league, demanded some change. The players all got together. They had some phone calls, and they canceled the entire slate of games for Thursday and Friday.
Sure.
The players were demanding some sort of, at least words or action from the league. And the really powerful moment came in the Western Conference bubble, where all the teams involved went to the press conference all together wearing their masks, and then the minority players and a couple of the white players. The players were Bo Horvat, Jamie Dickinson. Those were the white players, and then you had Ryan Reeves, Nazem Kadri, and Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, black and brown players. Had a big press conference, and Ryan Reeves had some poignant remarks, and so they eventually did better. But the point is, the NHL always lasts in.
It's the only in the goddamn NHL tradition to just essentially drag your feet. And I mean, yeah, I appreciate the spontaneity of what happened and how it's very difficult to come up with a reaction to that when it's kind of happening on the fly late in the day like it did. But at the same time, considering what's been happening, you'd think that a large organization such as the NHL would have had a little bit more of a contingency for stuff like this.
I mean,
just a little bit.
Again, this is the league where the commissioner once disappeared for like 2 weeks and nobody knew where he was. So,
but you're right, Andy. It's only in the goddamn NHL, and the problem is it's funny when the commissioner's gone, we can't find him. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to be like, there's like a big sports plus society moment going on here today, and you chose to not get on the boat. Yes, you caught up the next day, but you're still behind.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with the NHL, the steps they had at the beginning of the playoffs were probably the best things that they've ever done regarding this. So it's like it seemed like the wheels of change were starting to get in motion for them. And then the very next time you had an opportunity to really say, like, hey, we stand by what we said a month ago, they weren't able to pick up that ball again until everyone yelled at them and said,
look. As all this is going on, I'm thinking about what Andy said of Gary Bettman as Lord Zed, and I'm just imagining the Lord Zed music being played over like Gary Bettman making these announcements.
Yeah. And by the way, while we're talking about this in particular, I want to really just give a gold star out there to all you social media users that are just like, hey, I don't give a damn if the athletes aren't playing. I don't care what they say about this. Shut up and dribble. Gold star for you, just saying that you don't care what professional athletes think.
I think we can safely retire stick to sports. I feel like that has.
I think this moment in particular kind of brings that to the
right.
I liked the guy. I liked the guy who was like, "You should just watch rodeo."
Oh, yeah, that was
he
great.
Was some minor leaguer for the Flyers. Yeah, he was like, you should watch Dog Agility if you want politics to stay out of your sports. Dog agility competitions and rodeos. Yeah,
there's this one guy though. He was one of the MAGA sorts who was going on about. I don't think he was a pro athlete, just some random Twitter user who was going on like, it's like you should watch rodeo where men and women compete and they pray to Jesus and kneel to the flag.
Right.
Yeah. Or like they kneel to Jesus and stand for the anthem or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with the people that, of course, say like, "Oh, well, I'll never watch the NBA again."
Yes,
my ass. Shut up.
First off, most of those guys weren't watching it in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. So
those guys haven't watched an NBA game since like 1993. You know, I mean, they don't care.
It's just a mess. But like,
so I mean, again, and this just to kind of get an idea across of where we're at with this. I kind of wanted to share this here, and you guys may have seen it. And Greg, if you would allow me
is this the Rittenhouse thing?
This is, but it's not the part where it's graphic. This is
no, I don't care if it's graphic. This is going to get interesting. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, this is the problem in a nutshell. So this 17-year-old kid carrying an illegal firearm, there for medical support with his AR-15.
Yeah.
Protecting a burned down car dealership. Just shot
Illinois.
Yeah, he shot a guy he shot somebody in the head and then shot somebody in the arm and chest when he fell to the street. So this is him immediately after he shot those two people and he's trying to get away. This is via the New York Times. So watch this. Kid with a fucking AR-15 approaching a cavalcade of police cars.
Hands up.
Being told, as you can hear, this dude here just shot somebody. Listen to this.
Yeah. Is someone injured straight ahead?
Well, yeah, there were 3 people that were shot. So yeah,
right. But essentially, this kid had to almost beg to be arrested because the cops were.
I'm going to give the cops the benefit of the doubt on this and say that did they know that he had just shot someone?
I don't know.
You're walking through a protest with an AR-15 strapped across your chest.
He wasn't the only one.
Well, no, but I'm saying you're approaching.
React to those people.
What's that?
The police still have to react to those people.
Dude, if they were reacting to everybody carrying a gun, that's all they'd be doing. I mean, seriously, let's call this what it is. I mean, or let's be fair about this. We don't know, and this is what drives me nuts, is that we don't know what anybody was thinking of that. And this is where the nuance gets lost again. We're going to take that video and look at it and go, well, I don't know. Maybe the police did just say, fuck it, let him go. But I don't think that if they knew he had shot 3 people, do you really believe they were just going to let him walk away? I mean, I'm just asking. It's a fair question, I think.
And there is a lot of gray area to this because if you watch the other video where he's essentially where he's clearly videotaped shooting 2 people, he's fallen to the ground and essentially being rushed by a bunch of people, one of which has at least one of them has a firearm and gets shot. So I mean, you could claim some self-defense there and all that. The context of it is more troubling. And to me, if he was black or a person of color and approaching a bunch of police with an AR-15.
We can't say that for certain either.
The
odds are you're probably right.
Yes,
but
that's what I mean. The odds are, and I'm not trying to use this as a platform to deface police officers or anything like that. It's one of the frustrating.
I'm not going to defend the cops. I think that there are, we said this back when the George Floyd thing happened, and everybody's like, it's like 98 out of 100 are great. I'm like, no, it's more like 40 out of 100. I've seen too much police aggression. I've seen too much bullshit from police to buy for a second that there's not a problem. There's an absolute problem. What I don't want to get into is what I'm seeing everybody else do. We're speculating on stuff that we don't know anything about here. And that troubles me a little bit. Okay, we don't know what the cops are thinking. We don't know what anybody was thinking there. So let's not make any rash judgments is all I'm saying.
Well, either way, the kid was allowed to drive home with his mom.
With his mom and his AR-15?
His mom drove him there.
That's fucking hilarious. I mean, it's not hilarious, but it is.
Now you've got certain groups rallying to pay his legal fees.
Yeah.
because
Why- and
he's defending.
And the
It's
president
not
just basically gave him his blessing.
Well, okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and believe
Sure.
me, I think that anybody that will go back and listen knows I'm no fan of the police. But devil's advocate here, what if he did do it in self-defense?
Well, then I mean, essentially,
You still get arrested if you
Yeah.
shoot someone in self-defense. It's just
Yeah.
that as the evidence towards that comes out, then they let you go. But
Right. So,
but usually if you are, usually if you shoot someone, self-defense or not, the police are still going to have you in custody for a period.
right.
They don't let you drive. They don't let you drive
has
home
been-
with your mom.
He has been arrested. He is being charged as an adult, and he's being tried for murder.
yeah,
in first degree.
didn't he turn himself in? I mean, which is
He-
kind of
I
ridiculous.
believe-
But he had
I
to
believe
go
he
find
did.
them. I mean, I agree with that, but
I believe he did, but essentially the argument here, the dichotomy is that this is a white kid who has an illegal firearm, legal is at least in the state of Wisconsin, was driven from Illinois to Kenosha to, for all intents and purposes, hang out with an assault
Actually,
rifle.
I hate to step in, but
No.
he was already in Kenosha working, so he
Okay,
did not drive there to.
Yeah, from what I understand is his mom drove him there, and I don't know if they were both already there or what the context was. But I agree, there should be due process, absolutely. And if they do find that he's not necessarily on the hook for murder or manslaughter or whatever, just as long as he gets a fair trial and punished accordingly, good. Because I mean, he has to answer for two people that are dead, and whether it's to the extent that it's a unsatisfying compromise for everyone, then that's at least as long as justice is served.
Well, no, I think that if he shot those people on purpose, he should absolutely get the fullest extent of the law. I'm just again, I'm just trying to
I see Greg. I know you're frustrated because this is so everything is frustrating right now because
I just see all I
people
see is
to-
like if I sat down and talked with three guys that were conservatives, I'd get a completely different version of the story. And it's like there's truth in the middle somewhere.
Well, there's
I
video.
don't
That's part of the problem too, though, is that there's been no sort of information about it. Like the Kenosha Police Department has been very tight-lipped about anything regarding the situation.
Well, Zach can tell you just as much if you watch the John Oliver thing regarding the Kenosha I believe it's sheriff.
Yeah, he's not because there's two different things. There's the Kenosha Police, and then there's the sheriff. And the sheriff is a different guy than. I think it's a slightly different. Anyway, the sheriff had some ideas about what to do with.
I don't have it queued up, but essentially he said that this was several years ago after
5 years ago. Yeah,
5 years ago. It was after a crime was committed featuring several black men, where he essentially posited that we need to put, these are his words, we need to put them in a warehouse. We need to stop them from impregnating women.
Oh my God.
And we need to essentially put them in these warehouses where they'll essentially die.
yeah. But Andy, what do you do with those warehouses when they're all dead?
Oh,
What-
later on you give them to Amazon. That's
Yes.
ideal.
Mhm.
So essentially,
sell your prison warehouses to Amazon when you're done with them.
yeah. So essentially, this public figure went out and said, "Everybody's thinking it. I'm just saying it that we need to lock these black people up in
He
warehouses."
literally said the phrase, "Everyone's thinking it. I'm going to say it," sort of thing. Which is like, all right, that's not your place as the sheriff to determine. But okay,
But essentially, it just exposes a person who has some really ugly trains of thought in a position of power and privilege. And again, like Greg, I can feel you getting frustrated. Not that you are on anyone's side necessarily, but it's almost like by hearing this, it's like there's a portrait being painted that bends the truth, and it's like I just want the truth. I don't want one version of the truth versus another version of the truth, and it's changing the way you look at people and that people. And it's so fucking divisive. But the main thing is that it's exhausting. It is absolutely exhausting. And I think everyone is collectively, I would say for the most part, it just can't wait for things just to be dull again.
Yeah, well, they're not. We talked about this before the show too. That's not going to happen. I mean, this time I'm going to be doom and gloom. I really believe, and I know everybody's like, well, if Biden wins, this is going to happen. No, it's not going to get better no matter who wins, guys. I mean, maybe I'm just exhausted from the whole thing, but we talked about an end game earlier. I don't see an end game to this. I don't. I think that here's what's going to happen. If Biden wins, we're going to switch ends of the court. That's all that's going to happen here. We're going to go from, okay, now we're shooting at this basket instead. I mean, it's going to be basically like, okay, you guys, who's got next is basically what I'm saying here,
It's possible.
I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I've never in my life seen anything like this.
But so much of this feels so unprecedented, though. I mean, maybe, and again, it's one of those things to where I'm sure if you went back far enough in history, you'd find a slice of some culture in some country that is comparable to this, maybe in like Rome or something. But like, I feel like in modern, contemporary American history, maybe European history as well, we are essentially going through this for the first time. Many countries, probably in Europe and Africa, South America, places like that, are probably no strangers to this kind of tension, and have just learned to live with it. It's just become a way of life for them.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, not for the same reasons, obviously, but I would imagine things that probably get tense in Israel every day. Mike could speak to that better than I could, but they kind of live under the constant threat of crazy shit happening too.
I mean, if you want an American example, 1968.
Yeah, well, that's the closest thing I can think of, and I was there for both. I was very young in '68, so I don't remember much of it. But
so, I mean, was there a moment in '68, like the day that, like RFK getting killed? Was that?
I wish I could tell you, man, but I wasn't old enough to remember.
The big defining moment of '68 was the Democratic National Convention in, I believe, Chicago.
Yeah, around here, people say it's the Tigers winning the World Series is what solved everything. But
it was the Chicago DNC with the protesters who were basically beaten by the police.
Yeah, badly. Yeah, there's a famous picture of that dude, like just blood all over his face from. I'm sure you've all seen it, of him just getting cracked in the, I think in the nose with like what do they call it, a billy club or a baton or whatever. But yeah. It's nuts, fellas, and I don't know what the answer is. I just know that I see it, and maybe I already decided I'm done with Twitter. I'll keep doing the show stuff, but I've closed my personal account. I'm over it. It's just like I can't take it anymore. Yeah. And that's
the real problem right now, right? Like,
oh, you want me to solve the world's problems? I can do it in 3 minutes. Here we go. Get rid of social media, get rid of cable news, and we're good. But you can pick the third one. We'll do that too.
The thing is just like, we've had these things for plenty of time, but it's like you said before, Greg, if you got a different set of three people, with a differing view set, you would get a completely different view. Like, you take simple things, I've had plenty of arguments with my own family about this sort of crap recently, where facts are no longer facts. It's like, I will tell my family something that I literally got from a primary source, like that has no bias whatsoever, that is literally like numbers on a page about a thing, and it's like, well, that's your opinion, and it drives me nuts, because it's like, well, no, it's not. It's not. Like, I give you a fact. If I wanted to give you an opinion, I could give you that too. But like, when I'm trying to discuss things, or at least present certain issues to them, I try to give fact only, and then if you want to take it to your own opinion, I can't stop you, because that's what you're going to do. But like, there's no consensus on anything right now, really.
No,
and people that say like, well, look at all this, we obviously have to change something. There are plenty of people that, like, what needs to change is different depending on who you go with.
Well, that's the thing, and we talked about this before the show, where with the Blake shooting in Kenosha, okay, you're gonna have people that are gonna go, look, the guy was a criminal, he had a sex offense and all that. But yes, that's all true. There's also the side that says, he shouldn't have been shot no matter what. That's probably true too. In the middle somewhere is like, okay, this guy was doing these things, the police told him to stop, and they had to use force. But here's my question. Okay, yeah, maybe they need to use force. Did they need to empty an entire magazine in his back? Probably not. But you see what I mean? It's not as clear cut as everybody wants to make it out to be, no matter which side of it they're on.
I'm not even talking about being clear cut or shades of gray. Like, that's been brought up. But I mean, like, there are people that don't want to live in those shades. the discussion can never.
I know, and it's driving me crazy.
Right? Nobody can even can agree that there is gray areas in some of these things.
I agree with that completely. Yeah,
people just say like, "No, this is how it is," and somebody else.
A good thing for the example. A good thing is this whole coronavirus thing, where you point to the number of confirmed coronavirus deaths in the United States. And you bring it up to some people and they go, well, what's your proof for, Donald Trump handling this crisis poorly? And you go, well, you look at the numbers and you go, the United States has had this many of confirmed deaths compared to elsewhere. And, these people will literally say, it's like, oh, well, those facts, those facts are not facts. Those facts are your opinion, or those. It's like, well, I'm sure they question that. Another thing that comes to mind. Another thing that comes to mind. This goes back 4 years, but it was actually something that happened at the Republican National Convention 4 years ago. Newt Gingrich was going hard for Trump, and Newt Gingrich said something to the effect of, I believe that Donald Trump, will do what it takes to get the violent crime problem under control in the United States. And the interviewer goes, what violent crime problem? And Newt Gingrich is like, well, violent crime has been on the increase lately. And the person doing the interview goes, it hasn't. Like, here are statistics. Violent crime has been decreasing every decade since the 80s. Including up to the present day. There is less violent crime today than there was in 1980, and it has been a consistent downward trend since. And Newt Gingrich goes, well, the facts say that, but my feeling is that violent crime has gotten worse.
I want to go back to your, and I hate to bring up a sore subject again, but on the coronavirus thing, again, there is a nuanced middle that no one wants to talk about when it comes to the death numbers. And simply stated, when you look at the United States, and let's set aside the coronavirus for a second, what is one of the biggest problems we have in this country? Obesity, correct? So the point I'm making is that, yes, our death rate is higher, and there are reasons for that, not all of them political. For example, the United States has a high obesity rate compared to most other civilized nations. When you throw that in with the comorbidities that people have and blah 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 and all that, yes, that's going to skew our numbers a little higher. Is that the sole reason? No, but Donald Trump is not the only reason that our death rate is where it is either. This is the kind of stuff that I'm losing my mind over because. There's no buts.
You're losing your mind over it, but in your attempt to try to find this middle ground, the shade of gray, this reasonable compromise, you're like, Donald Trump is not the only reason. And no, he's not, Greg. You're absolutely right, but he is a reason.
As are comorbidities and obesity and everything.
And I understand that, but comorbidities and obesity are not for re-election in November.
I have a suggestion, if you don't mind.
Wait, let me just ask a question here first, okay? And I'm not going to vote for the guy. We all know that. But my question is this: what would he have done differently? I mean, fuck him. What would anybody have done differently?
I'll point you to Joe Biden's acceptance speech at the DNC, where he laid out a plan for this is what we are going to do. I point you to that. It was basically the bare minimum common sense standards of what you would do in a pandemic. And, in any under circumstances, Joe Biden's plan might seem underwhelming, but compared to what Trump did, absolutely it's a step in the right direction.
I didn't watch either convention, so I can't really address any of that.
Well, okay. So I swear to God, next week we can talk about Batman. That'll be fun. But I figured it would be let's close the show out.
We totally would have, but the world happened.
Right, and who knows what'll happen next week?
In the year 2020. I guess we'll save it for then too. But we had Chadwick Boseman die over the weekend too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that should be. We should.
Did anybody even know he was sick? I mean, I was like, why is everybody talking about Chadwick Boseman?
The guy who writes the Black Panther movies didn't even know he was sick.
Yeah, he pulled a Neil Peart on us there.
Yeah, he just wanted to keep working as well as he could. The only inclination that people may have had is that he loved working with cancer kids and making sure that they,
Yeah, I saw a really cool post about that. Somebody put up he was sick while he was doing this. He knew he was sick and he still did it anyway. And I'm like, man, I was just shocked as hell. I had no idea, and that's too
stage,
big.
stage 4 colon cancer at 43.
That's weird. That's really
amazing.
weird.
He lived. It's amazing he lived as long as he did. With colon cancer, is a motherfucker. It gets you so fast.
Because he learned about it in 2016, I believe. So
wow, that's just a fucking shame. But anyway, all right. So yeah, are we done?
No. Well, I wanted to end the show. Let's try to end on a positive note. What is one thing that's happened in the last week that's made you guys a little happy? Let's end on a positive note.
You got to understand.
This is the hardest question you've asked.
You have to understand. This past week has not been a good time on my end of things. I don't know.
It can be something small, whatever. You had a really good bowl of cereal or something.
I don't know. If you're looking for positive things, past week, I started. It was e-learning, but started teaching. For the school year that happened last week, and. Not to sound cheesy, but that's always kind of exciting. It's always kind of exciting to get a new class in and kind of figure out who's who and get the year off to a good start. So that has been a good distraction, if anything else.
Okay. Anyone else?
I started watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's delightful.
Oh, you haven't seen that yet?
No, I've never watched the show. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a good ride.
It's one of those things. Obviously, it is a kid show, but it's one of those things that it happened. It got popular right after my window.
Yeah,
if it had come out 2 or 3 years earlier, I probably would have been all in on it. But it just missed me.
Just so long as you didn't watch the live action movie, you should be good.
Well, right. I'm gonna watch the show. Netflix just put up the sequel series or prequel series. I don't really know. Nobody's tell me. For Korra, which is the sequel, prequel, whatever to it. So I probably would roll through into that, and then because I just think I need to experience it once I get the source material in. I think I have to take in the.
Oh, you're in for a treat. You are in for a ride.
Oh, I'm aware.
Guys, can we put this conversation in with Batman next week, or just asking?
I mean, we can just get rid of it. The last thing I'll say in it, Mike, it's the same thing where I grew up a huge Dragon Ball fan. You know that too. And you know that the Dragon Ball live action movie is going to be bad. And you still got to see it.
Still got it just to see it. Yeah, I get it.
My positive was my NHL 20 Be a Pro character got drafted by the fucking Devils. And
me too. Yeah,
it's just inevitable that you go to the fucking Devils.
Yeah,
and
I took a trade as soon as I could.
Oh, well, that's the thing, is that I've been begging for a trade, and essentially your character, until they get decent, never gets traded. Right. So I finally got to the threshold where they accept a trade, and they sent me to the fucking Winnipeg Jets, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I can. I mean, I like the Jets, so it was just a massive upgrade to me to get the hell away from New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So my pro is on the right direction now, on the right path. So
I got Devils, and then I got sent to Arizona. I finally got to be a free agent. Went to the Coyotes. I had a 200-point season. We got to the playoffs. We were up 3-1 in our series, and then I hit a dude too hard, so the game automatically made me fight. And then apparently I got a concussion in that fight. We then went from being up 3-1 in the series to losing the series, and I was so mad. But
Greg?
First, I got to tell a story about MLB The Show a couple years ago. I did the Road to the Show thing, and I'm playing along. I'm in the Baltimore Orioles system. I'm like, this will be okay, I guess, right? I get traded in my AAA year to the Red Sox. So now if I'm going to make the major leagues, I got to go to the fucking team I hate worse than anybody, right? So I get called up by the Red Sox, and like a week into it, do you want to be traded? I'm like, yes. So guess where they send me? The fucking Yankees. I was like, you know what? Never mind. My good thing for the week, I got to have dinner with a couple of my old friends last Friday, and then I went out and hung out with another one of them on Saturday. And
awesome.
Every day that I get to ride my Harley is a good day. So I had a lot of good stuff.
I think that's a pretty good way to end. So hopefully next week we can talk a little bit more light, get some Batman, some video game stuff, maybe some pop culture. Hopefully, not some dreary
dreary march towards our own
Yeah,
destruction.
towards the meteor that's supposed to hit the Earth on election day.
Yeah, well,
That's right. Yeah,
of course it is.
Yeah, I love those stories because it says, astronomers say that an asteroid is hurtling towards Earth. You're like, holy shit, what? And they're like, yeah, it's going to miss it by 2,000 miles or so. It's like,
That's pretty
There's
damn
a
close.
NASA says there's a 0.41% chance it will hit the Earth, and I'm like, you know what? Put all your money on it.
And it's
It'll hit.
it's not big. It's going to disintegrate in the atmosphere. It's like not big enough to destroy anything. But it's just funny to read.
Is it 6.5 feet or 6.5 meters across? I can't remember.
Either way, that's not big enough.
6.5 meters isn't enough to destroy anything.
No, but it could get through at 6.5 meters. At 6.5 feet, it's not even making it.
It could knock
anywhere.
over a lawn chair. I think that's about as much as we're going to get out of this.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what those fuckers can do, man.
No,
I'm just
I
saying.
know it'll probably break a few windows or something. But I don't. I put of course, what I'm doing now is I'm building the spite and the hate of the meteor, so it will be certain to destroy at least one country.
One small European principality will
you
just
know
be
what?
destroyed.
You know what you're doing, Andy, is now it's like you've fucked it up. So this is great because the thing's going to be way bigger than they thought it was. It's going to land right in Indiana and wipe out both of us. That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
So there you go. All right. On that positive note, folks.
and then one of the conferences in the NFL can actually be the Cleveland Browns Memorial Conference.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, there we go.
Well done.
Cleve Jack to finish the night. There we go.
There you go.
All right, folks.
We
Follow
made it
us
September somehow. So good job, everybody.
Right. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via Apple Podcasts, the Spotify, where we got no money to join, but we're still there.
Right.
Stitcher, Spreaker, the YouTubes, and wherever fine podcasting is sold. We'll see you next time.
Later.
Bye, everybody.
Adios.